Finally, the time has come for another video game review, and today we're going to talk about Nioh because yes, you have been asking me to talk about this game for the latest 20 videos I've made, so let's just talk about it. Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and what am I wearing? Well, it's just one of my fantasy armors. Can you guess what game this is from? So why did I choose to wear this? Just because. So in this video we're going to talk about quite a lot of things. I mean, first of all, we're going to examine the combat style of this game. How realistic is it? Because they do show, you know, we do have this opportunity to switch stances and everything, but are the stances original, and are the katana moves and weapon moves realistic? Well, we will talk about this. Secondly, we will discuss the armor and weapons that we see in the game. Are these historically accurate, or are they completely fantasy? Third, we will very quickly and briefly discuss a little bit about the Yōkai that we find in this game, so the sort of monsters and creatures that come from, of course, Japanese mythology and lore. Talking about the combat now, as I said, the moves, are they realistic? Well, the stances are not too bad, although I've got to say, realistic is a big word, because, for example, let's look at the middle stance. It's basically a Seigan no Kamae, although it's with the left leg forward. I've got to say, I've always seen Seigan no Kamae with the right leg forward, but that doesn't mean that Seigan no Kamae with the left leg forward is absolutely wrong or is completely unthinkable. I would have my back a little bit more straight, but still, it's a plausible Kamae. It's a plausible stance. The upper stance, though, it does not look a Jodan no Kamae. His hands are too much towards the right. The lower stance is very strange because it's not a Gedan no Kamae. To do a Gedan no Kamae, you have both Migi Gedan, so right Gedan, and Hidari Gedan, so left Gedan. But in this case, he's not doing any of these because the sword is towards the side. So it's like in between a Waki and a Gedan. Now, the way he attacks, from the middle stance, he swings the sword left to right, and then he performs a final cut. Very strange that he actually uses one hand for the final cut, considering the swords he's handling, they're mostly two-handed swords. With a strong attack, he just thrusts 3 times, again using only one hand for the last attack. With a low stance, we've got a whole series of cuts similar to this. Again, with a strong attack is where things get a little ridiculous. Upper stance, now he cuts from above at first, then he cuts from the bottom up, and then cuts with a step. The strange one is the ridiculous one is the one with the strong attack, because he actually starts pirouetting in a similar way to the Witcher, I'd say. Okay, in a real sword fight these would not make much sense, but I'll give him the fact that he's mostly fighting undead and monsters and yokai, so in that case I suppose it could maybe make sense, considering some of these are rather slow. Now, as far as the way they work in the game, that is something I like, because in a upper stance your attacks deal more damage, but you are slower. Now, of course, this has nothing to do with reality, but within the game mechanics they work and they make the game interesting. In a middle stance you are sort of middle speed, middle damage, and in a low stance you don't deal much damage at all, but you are super quick. Again, this is not the way it works in reality, but in the game it works because it's fun. You actually end up switching stances a lot. I personally tend to use most of the times the middle stance. When my enemy is about to die, I actually switch to a low stance because this allows me to just finish him off, anticipating his attacks because I'm really quick. So this is good when you just want to finish off an opponent, because you know that those quick attacks, even if they don't deal much damage, they will kill him, will get the job done, and they will be quicker. Otherwise, if I'm fighting against an opponent who is like a boss, so super strong but also slow, I prefer to be able to hit hard, so I use the upper stance. So I wait for him to miss, and while he's recovering from the attack, I land a few high damage strikes, and occasionally I will switch to middle stance if I see that he's doing some other attacks that he is quicker at recovering from. I also use the upper stance when an enemy has not seen me or has not spotted me, because again, it's a good way to place an attack which will deal a lot of damage. So overall, I think it works really well, it's really cool, and it's quite original. One thing I'd like to say to start is the fact that, I mean, a lot of people have said that this game is very similar to Dark Souls, and I hear this all the time. Dark Souls, Japanese Dark Souls, Japanese Dark Souls. But, I mean, this game was developed by Team Ninja, and I don't hear many people say this, because if you think about it, I can see Team Ninja written all over the place. So to me, it's not really a Japanese Dark Souls, but I think it's a Japanese Dark Souls skin on top of a Ninja Gaiden series. Because if you think about it, I mean, the trees, you know, Team Ninja, the graphics looks a lot like a typical Team Ninja game. The same for the atmosphere, the characters look, it just, even the way it moves, the way you attack, to me, it's closer to a Ninja Gaiden game, and even the way the enemies die, than it is to a Dark Souls. So yes, I can see a lot of Dark Souls things, like the places where you save, and then the sword, the katana on the ground, very similar to the sort of elements in the Dark Souls series. The menu looks similar to Dark Souls, absolutely. I'm not gonna say that it's not, but it's like a Dark Souls skin, as I say, but the core is a typical Ninja Gaiden game, if you ask me, and both in positive and negative aspects, because Team Ninja, you are really good at drawing and creating and modeling your 3D characters, really good, Dead or Alive, for example, but you have never been good at making trees, mates. Like, honestly, these trees are not next gen. Absolutely, these trees are next gen, okay? And even in the Ninja Gaiden series, the characters always look good, the moves are fluid, and in fact in this game the combat is really good, and as a matter of fact I actually prefer the combat in this game than over the combat in Dark Souls. But the trees, the areas, the atmosphere, I don't know, it's just similarly to the Ninja Gaiden, that's definitely not a selling point if you ask me. Alright, so talking about the armor, for what I could see so far, the armor looks almost realistic. Very quick disclaimer, I know it's a game, I know it's fantasy, I know it's not supposed to be historically accurate, it's just that people have asked me this question. Though the weapons look good, nothing really to say about the weapons, but the armor, well, it looks almost good. What I mean by that, and of course there are lots of different sets in the game and they needed to vary them, so I totally understand the reason why they started changing things. But some of the armors we find, well, I've got to say, they look, almost kind of a nice try, you know. For example, sometimes we've got the yodarekake, so the protection for the throat, which is actually, it looks like it's fused to the breastplate, whereas I noticed that the yodarekake doesn't seem to be attached to the mask, the mempo, as it normally is. Now, it's not always the case. Sometimes you have only yodarekake, so the protection for the throat, and then you just fasten it, behind your neck, in which case it will be okay. But when the mask is present, normally the yodarekake is part of the mask. Also, the door, the hinging method on the sides doesn't look historical at all. Still, it's okay, of course it's a game, but I'm just saying. Also, the sode that I have seen in some suits of armor, in some sets of armor, don't really look much realistic. I don't understand the attachment method. I don't actually see any attachment method. Apart from these minor details though, the armor, the whole thing looks pretty believable. Apart from that, you can immediately tell that it's a kabuto. You can recognize it's kind of cool that you've got even the jingasa, and you can see that they did put some research into it. So I appreciate that they did keep it somewhat historical, although if it were me, I would have gone for 100% historical. Now, as far as the Yōkai are concerned, of course, I've got a whole series of videos on Yōkai, and as a matter of fact, there are 4 episodes at the moment. on this channel about the yokai, but the sort of yokai that I found, I really like them. They have done a lot of research on the yokai. We've got the Umibozu as a boss, and I hear he's quite tough. I still haven't reached that part, but I hear he's really, really tough, as he should be anyways, as far as Japanese lore is concerned. There are lots of different things. The Kodama look extremely cute. They have their own style, you know, it's their own way of representing these yokai, and it's fine. Of course, they have got their own artists, and I think that they've done a fantastic job at representing these yokai from Japanese mythology. Even the Yuki Onna looks absolutely beautiful, the way they have represented her here. I think a good artist is an artist who gives his own signature, so you can see his own style, but the creature is still 100% recognizable because the main and most important traits of that creature are still present, and that's what they have done here. It's their own interpretation, their own style. However, you can still perfectly recognize the creatures if you do study and understand Japanese lore and mythology. So, big thumbs up for the yokai that they have put in this game. Alright then, noble ones, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. Soon, the Mordau video evaluation and what I think about the Mordau trailer. I will soon release this video on the channel. But let me know, what do you think about Nioh? Overall, I think it's a really good game. It's fun to play, I enjoy it, I spend quite a lot of time playing this game with my friends in the evening, so I think it's a success as a game. A lot of people say it's overrated, but I still think it's a good game. It's a really good game, so I enjoyed it, and if you like samurai and Japanese lore, I would say it's definitely a must-buy. But if you're all into graphics, or you really are a huge fan of Dark Souls, then don't expect this game to be just a Japanese Dark Souls, because it's not. There are some differences, okay? And some are good, and others are just completely different. So you will have, if you're just expecting a Dark Souls game, then no, it's not a Dark Souls game. Alright, so let me know what you think, and thank you very much for watching. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye, and have fun playing.